Hi, and welcome again to another edition of the Trustcast Show. And I'm really excited to have Joe Jones here with me. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Zane. Really happy to be here.
So, Joe is the co founder and CEO of StreamSettle, and he went from defending Marines in military courtrooms to co founding StreamSettle, a legal tech platform that uses triple blind encryption to settle insurance claims before either side even knows what the other submitted. He's also a board certified trial lawyer, a distinction held by less than 6% of Texas attorneys, who now argues that the best use of his courtroom skills is making sure his clients never see one. So you said you had a shower idea while you were working a trucking case that you couldn't ignore. What was the problem you saw that morning, and why couldn't you let it go?
Yeah, so we were engaged in a trucking case, and I was representing the injured party, and I knew that this case was going to settle. I had it in my gut that I know this case is going to settle, and yet we're just going through all these motions, and there's trials coming up, and I can't remember what it was, but we were, my kids are all playing outside. I work from home, so my kids were all playing outside in the cul-de-sac. We had neighbors over, and I'm in my office just, typing away on some motions. And I went and grabbed a shower, and then it came to me that, man, if there was a way that we could just put our true numbers in, and not our postured numbers, but our true numbers into some thing that could tell us if we have an overlap without revealing our numbers, that would be awesome. I would love to use that. And so my first idea was maybe something like that exists and I can use it in this case. But there wasn't. There was nothing out there. And so we kind of quickly, I talked to my wife, who's now my co-founder, but I ran the idea past her. She's my curator of ideas, and they usually get rejected, but she liked this one. She really liked this idea. And then it quickly became our purpose. And now we see it as our purpose, is to make this an industry standard, because we see it time and time again save parties a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of stress, just all the things we want to avoid. And so that's our mission now.
So, most of the time when I think of settling, there's attorneys that litigate and there's attorneys that settle. The thing that comes to mind is when you settle, the word settle means you're settling for less. So to explain to me how StreamSettle works, so that you don't have to settle for less.
And I think that's one of the assumptions that are made by most of our customers when we first talk to them is, when we first started telling them about the product, we told them, hey, we get your cases settled faster. And we quickly realized that that wasn't an effective pitch, because when they heard that, when lawyers would hear that, they would think, okay, well then, the cost of that is going to be value. We're going to have to accept less money.
Right.
And then, so we learned to fine tune it. And now our pitch to both sides is same settlement, just much earlier. So same settlement amount. We're not asking the injured party or the aggrieved party to take less. We're just finding a way to get the parties there quicker, because as the case drags on, the defendant or the insurance company or the business on the other side, they're spending a ton of money paying lawyers by the hour, paying for every deposition, paying for experts. All that stuff adds up to a tremendous amount of money. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got the injured party or the aggrieved party, their lawyer, their staff, and they're all spending money too. And we know ultimately over 90% of these cases settle. So it just didn't make sense to me that we spend so much time litigating, and so much money litigating, and so much stress in this process, when we could just short circuit and get it done a lot quicker if we didn't have these barriers of posturing in the way.
So you said triple blind. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's triple blind. That means that no one can see their opponent's number, and our software is also blind to the actual numbers. So the way it works is the computations are done on the user's machines, and they pass through our server in an encrypted format where we can't see the numbers. And then it's really the users that tell us, hey, the case is settled. Now, all this is automated. Our users have no, to them, it looks seamless and automated, but there's a real, complicated encryption protocol that's going on that ensures that only the person putting their number in has access to that number and can see that number. And so that's, it's different from some of the competitors that we have, where they have access to the numbers. So if one side hires that competitor, or one side hires that company to help them resolve the case, and then the other side's brought on, there's trust issues there still, because they're like, okay, well, I don't want to give my number to the company you hired, right? And so we really maintain ourselves as a neutral party in the space, and then just add a layer of technological security to that to ensure that even we can't see the number.
So when they put in, do they put in like a range number? This is the range we're willing to accept, and then the other side, this is the range we're willing to accept. Is that how basically how it works?
So we use one number, and it's called the true settlement threshold. So that's all we're concerned about with the parties. What are you willing? What's the bottom line that you're willing to accept to the plaintiff, and what's the top number that you're willing to pay to the defense? That's going to get us away. Even ranges involve posturing, right? Because it's like, well, if you would accept the bottom of the range, then that's really your threshold. And so that's what we want the parties to put in, is their true settlement threshold. And let's see if we have an overlap in those. And if so, then we split it right down the middle of the threshold. And so each party does at least as well as they were willing to do. And most of the time they do better than what they were willing to do.
Oh, so if if it ends up that it's closer to one side than the other, but it's within the two thresholds, then you split it in half. Is
Yeah,
that
so
right?
like if the defense puts in that they'll pay 1 million, and the plaintiff puts in that they would accept 950, the settlement's going to be at 975. So the plaintiff's getting 25 more than they were willing to accept, and the insurance company or the defendant is paying 25,000 less than they were willing to pay.
Right. Yep. I got it. So so what happens if you know it that they don't the numbers don't cross over? Do you have a second round, or is that the end of it? How does that work?
So it's on the parties. They can go ahead right away and try again if they want. There's zero charge to test your numbers. We don't charge any fees to access our platform or anything like that. We only charge a fee until once there's a settlement on our platform. So they can put their numbers in, and what we try to emphasize is like, look, if you put your true threshold in, there shouldn't need to be a second round until something has changed in the case, right? Because if both sides are doing it right, then their threshold shouldn't be different just based on the fact that there was no overlap, right?
Right.
That's not material information that should affect their threshold. But if they go and they take another deposition, they learn some new facts about the case, and that's usually what can bring the parties closer together in their positions.
Okay, I got it. I got it. So and then you'd only charge after. So are you marketing this through other law offices? Can you do this within just within Texas, or can you do this other places as well?
We're nationwide, and once we really, once we become an industry standard here, and maybe even before that, we plan to go global. We're not the only country with litigation, but we're certainly not the only country with negotiations where delay might be a cost to parties. So we're always looking for other verticals, other use cases where we might be applicable. But as of now, we're nationwide. We are available in all 50 states.
And how long have you been in offering this service?
So we started the company late 2022, and we finished the build at the end of 2023, and we went live with our first customer up in New Jersey in 2023, at the beginning of 2023, and they're still our most active customer,
Uh-huh.
and our they've done a lot of they did a lot of those when you first have this when we first offered it, we thought it was perfect, right? And like
Yep.
nothing's need to change, it's ideal. But you learn so much from your customers, and so we're so grateful to them, our first customers, Plymouth Rock Assurance, for helping us get through those growing pains and helping us really refine our product into what it is now. And I mentioned them, but also the we brought on about 50 law firms in the state of New Jersey too during that first year and a half, and they were also just instrumental in helping us really refine our product. So really grateful to them.
So how did you navigate the actual development of the product?
So we partnered with a company based out of London, and they do a lot of big enterprise development for different companies, and they have just been our ideal partner. We still use them today. Anytime we have updated features, which we're constantly improving, anytime we have bugs or anything like that, they're extremely responsive, and they've just been a wonderful partner of ours.
So, were you able to do that so that you didn't have to shell out as much money to develop it because they took a position in your enterprise?
No, no, they don't have any equity in our company. We just pay them by the hour, so we do pay them a lot of money,
Okay.
but they've been worth every penny. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you some more background stuff. Because I just was asking, I have a whole bunch of questions on here. So, you started as a Marine Corps criminal defense attorney right out of law school. What did defending Marines teach you about how people actually resolve conflict?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that was, I mean, best job ever, for a new lawyer. I mean, it was an incredible job. And really, I should say, I really started as a legal assistance attorney in the Marine Corps. That was my first billet. Most of my time on active duty, I spent as a criminal defense lawyer. But I started as legal assistance, and legal assistance, that means that Marines and sailors would come into our office with all sorts of problems, whether it be divorce or whether it be they, got involved in some contract with some scammer out in town, or a business that's doing something deceptive and hurt them, or a landlord that's trying to evict them without, proper due course. And so they would come to us for help with that. And I learned a tremendous amount doing that because one, we did not have the power of the courts behind us. So if we couldn't get something worked out with the other side, there's really nothing we could do. So negotiation became a huge part of what I had to do, and what I did do to get as much success as I had as a legal assistance attorney. So I learned quite a bit there, and it really got me to be creative. As a litigating attorney, it's like, okay, if you're not going to do what I want, I'm just going to file suit, and then we'll handle it in the courts, right? And it's kind of this tough guy mantra the whole time. But in that role, I didn't have that ability, and so I was forced to be creative and try to work out solutions and try to appeal to the other side to do the right thing without the threat of we're going to sue you if you don't.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was really cool. And then, as a criminal defense attorney, trying to negotiate deals and stuff for clients, if they were guilty, and they and the evidence was overwhelming and we couldn't poke any holes in the government's case, then yeah, working out a deal is the best, if not only, solution. And of course, we would just what I would really focus on in those situations is the mitigating factors. So I would talk to the prosecutor about, well, yeah, I know my client did this, but did you look at his combat record? Did you realize he had PTSD and that he was suffering from that, and it went untreated for years due to the Marine Corps' fault? So stuff like that, we can point out those factors to help reduce whatever sentence or potential punishment that our client was facing.
Mhm. So, your wife's name is it Krissa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Krissa, yep.
Your wife Krissa went from teaching in public schools to co-founding this legal tech startup with you. How did that conversation go at the kitchen table?
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of like she's always been, we like working together. She was my firm administrator for the law firm, and so we were already working together. But then once we started to scale down the firm, and then she started helping a lot more with StreamSettle, and then it was like, hey, you just have to be the co-founder, because I mean, it's what we talk about constantly, right? And so we call it our fourth child. We have three real kids, and then
Yeah.
StreamSettle is our fourth our fourth baby. And it's been a blessing to have this journey with her, because starting a law firm is one thing. Starting a startup with no proven demand out there, where you really have to go out and create demand and really go and talk to as many people, and we go to a lot of pitch competitions and conferences, and just we have really gotten to do this journey together. So it's been awesome.
So you use the word posturing a lot. Can you give me a real world example of how posturing kills a deal that should have gotten done?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't necessarily say kills a deal, but it without a doubt delays deals from happening. And think about when you're going to buy a car, and you see a car on the lot and it's priced at a certain price, and automatically you're thinking, okay, well, what should I offer? Right? You're not thinking, okay, I'm going to pay that number. You want to posture somewhere lower than that. And so you may tell the other side, look, that's out of my budget. The car's listed at 6,000. Well, I've only got a $45,000 budget. So can you work with me here? Right? So you're trying to present facts to the other side to affect their position. And of course, that sticker that was put on the car initially is a form of posturing too. They're trying to start you off at a certain number that they want to get, right? And so in the context of a buy and sell of a vehicle or a house, posturing might delay you by minutes or weeks, maybe months. But in litigation with civil disputes, you're talking about years, very, very, very expensive years of delay. And so that's really the problem we're focused on right now. We believe that it's billions. I mean, really, really tens of billions that are wasted every single year just because of posturing. But it's a natural thing. We can't, there's no way to like tell people, okay, both of you tell the truth at the same time. Like that just doesn't work, right? So
we want you to not act like a human being this time, okay?
exactly. And in fact, there's ABA, the American Bar Association puts out model rules for ethics. And one of them is, as a lawyer, you can't deceive. You can't be deceptive. You can't lie. But in the context of negotiations, there's an exception. And so you're allowed to engage in puffering because they just know that it's such an ingrained behavior that we have that they can't make a rule out of it, right? And so it's just an accepted form of, I guess, deceit is what you could call it.
So insurance adjusters and plaintiffs' attorneys have been negotiating the same way for decades, maybe 100 years plus. What's the typical reaction when you pitch them this new system? What kind of they must have 1,000 objections.
So it's interesting because one of the initial reactions that we get from lawyers is, well, okay, well, I get why it's good for us, but how are you going to get the other side to do it, or what's in it for them? And it's funny because when we talk to insurers, they say the same thing. Like, okay, I get why we should do this, but how could you possibly get the lawyer on the other side to do this? And so that's when we knew, like, okay, this is really good because they're both saying the same thing. They both think it's better for them than the other. That's perfect, right? And so we have it once the lawyer hears what we offer and they actually understand what we're doing, we really don't get any objections. There's the one-off objection that we'll get about, well, I do it this way and I've always done it this way and I'm not changing. Okay, well, that's just not our target customer. We're not trying to like really bring in the people that are so tech averse and so stuck in their ways that they don't want to try anything innovative. But most folks, when they hear that they can get the same settlement amount just earlier on without the stress and the headache and still get that full value, then it's a no-brainer for them. Plaintiff lawyers get paid on a contingency fee. If the case settles on day 1 or day 500, they're getting the same cut, the same percentage. So it's definitely in their best interest, just like the insurer or whoever the defendant is, it's in their best interest to get it done as early as possible.
So I could see. So let's say I'm an attorney and I have this client and they want to get a certain amount of money, and or the attorney suggests to them, which frequently happens, is the attorney suggests, well, this should be worth this amount of money, because they don't have any idea really. Most of the time it's the attorney that says this case should be worth this amount of money based upon everything that you've told us and everything we know. And then the client says, okay, that sounds great. And then I'm going to be cynical here, so pardon me if I go that direction.
No, you're fine,
for
yeah.
purposes of this argument. So then the person says, okay, then they go into your platform and they settle right away, and then the person's thinking, geez, you settled for too little. You didn't get me enough because it happened too fast. Do you?
I think what you're touching on, I think is some we're still trying to figure out a way to make parties feel better about a win, because I think as humans we kind of gravitate toward losses more. Like we see losses as more significant than we see an equal gain, right? Like if you
Yes.
win $3 and you lose $2, the joy you have from winning $3 doesn't feel as good as the loss hurts, right? And so yeah, that has happened a couple times where the parties will reach a settlement and they're, in talking to them afterward and getting some feedback, they're like, man, I could have gotten more from the insurer. But I'm like, well, what do you think that they're saying? They're saying, y'all are both going to say this. They're going to say, well, I could have paid less to the plaintiff lawyer to get this settled. So it's a wash, right? It meets down the middle at that. As far as the time concerned, I don't know. I don't know. I think that most folks that are involved in litigation hate it. And I know that's how my clients felt. That's how even the defendants on the other side, when I was practicing, that's how they felt. They don't want to be in a lawsuit. It's stressful even if your lawyer's doing all the work for you, it's still stressful just being in a lawsuit. And so I think that they're relieved if they can walk away with something that they were willing to accept, maybe a bit more. They're relieved and they can move on with their life. And we're really proud of that aspect of our company, that we get to be part of that process.
Okay, so I got some rapid fire questions that I always like to throw these in the middle. Favorite thing about the Marines that civilians would never guess?
That they would never guess. Oh, that's a good one. I don't know why this is coming to mind, but this is just something funny that I love about Marines. Is it when you have Marines together and there's something like, let's say my collar was messed up like this and I'm in an elevator, another Marine's gonna fix that for me. If I got a hair sticking up on the back of my head, we look out for each other 24/7, and that was something that I really love. And now I find myself doing that to non-Marine friends. I'll like fix their stuff, and they're like, "What are you doing?" So it's a little bit different, but we kind of get used to that in the indoctrination training and all that. We get used to really looking out for each other in every way. And yeah, that's a small example of something I love.
What instrument do you play?
Oh, I play drums. I play guitar. I play the keys a little bit.
So, see, you're probably surprised I would even ask that. Best
Yeah.
ski run you've ever done?
Oh my God. Oh man, you did your homework. I, the best ski. I won't be able to tell you run. My favorite place to go though is Big Sky. I love Big Sky. That is my favorite resort.
Okay, this one's a tough one. Texas A&M or Houston Texans if you could only watch one for the rest of your life?
Aggies. Gotta go Aggies. Yeah.
One book every entrepreneur should read.
Ooh. Um, Definitely. The first one that came, I got like four, but the first one that came to mind was Mom Test. So I'm going to go with that. The Mom Test is a great book about how to validate your product before you go to market. And it teaches you how to talk to potential customers and to anyone about your product without getting kind of garbage answers back, that because no one wants to tell you like, no, I would never use that, right? People are going to tell you like, oh, good idea, no matter what it is. And so Mom Test kind of teaches you a way to go about that without getting, bad answers.
Now that's made me curious. I'm gonna have to. I don't know anything about the book. I'll have to go look that up. Okay, courtroom or conference room? Where do you feel more alive?
I don't think I've ever felt more alive than I do in the courtroom. I mean, when you're in your flow and everything's going your way, I mean, that's a great feeling. But there are many conference rooms depositions where I felt pretty good too.
So lawyers are famously risk averse. No is a favorite thing to say, especially if you're in a business situation. So you bootstrapped StreamSettle with no outside funding. Um, and referred out all your cases to go full time on it. What was plan B if it didn't work?
Um, Plan B, I guess, mediation, or just starting the firm back up, or we really kind of got an inkling early on that this was going to be a challenge, but it was going to work eventually, so we knew like, hey, it's a matter of when, not if. And we had that feeling pretty early on, just based on initial customer research. But yeah, I knew I could go back to the practice of law if I wanted to full time. I knew I could start mediating and really just make an aggressive push to bring in customers to do that. So I had some plan Bs and Cs and Ds, you know, but yeah, fortunately we're able to just ride this one out.
You sound like you have more the mentality of an entrepreneur than an attorney.
I think at heart that's probably true. Yeah.
So you studied abroad in Barcelona at the National University of Ireland in Galway. Did those experiences shape how you think about building a global product?
Yeah, I mean, man, I don't know. That was 20 years ago. So I don't know how much of that, I haven't thought about that. But I mean, it was an international business trip. That's what they called it, or international business program. Um, and I think it definitely made the world feel a little bit smaller. I think growing up in America, you kind of, if you've never been abroad, it kind of feels like strange and mysterious. At least it did to me. But then after being there and living there for a short time, it just, it's an extension of here. I mean, it's just people. And so yeah, I mean, we have no concerns with expanding in the global market.
So, what's the hardest part about creating demand for a product that solves a problem that most people, most of your customers don't even know that they have?
Yeah, I think you touched on it when saying that lawyers are risk averse. They're also very technology averse, right? So lawyers are a bunch of history majors and poli sci majors, and not a lot of computer science folks. Um, and so they tend to want to gravitate toward what they know and what they do already. And it's. Have you heard of the technology adoption curve, or have you read Crossing the Chasm? Another great book for any entrepreneurs, Crossing the Chasm, especially if you're going to be selling technology. But it talks about how you have folks that will not try new technology no matter what no matter what your pitch is, no matter how great it is and relevant to their life, they're not going to try new technology. And we call those laggards. And on the other end, you have innovators and early adopters. And so just figuring out a way to kind of sift through the market and really target your early adopters and your innovators, because they love new technology. They want to try it. They're willing to work through the bugs and give you feedback and all these great things. And so that's kind of something that we've had to do with the with lawyers and really any of our customers, is really just try to identify those folks, because they help growth, and they start talking to their friends about it, and now their friends who were late majority or laggards are willing to use it.
So Jones and Koch has what you call a two for one, or you call it a two for one litigation advantage. How does a client end up with two legal teams for the price of one? Or have you now, you're just not really involved in that because you're full time with StreamSettle?
Yeah, so we have a law firm that focuses on pre-litigation. So my partner Sean Cook, he's the managing partner, so he handles most of the case workup. But what we do is we focus on one, we screen and we only take really, really good cases, because we want to keep a low docket. And then we really put together a demand that captures our client's damages. It really focuses on what our client went through, and we try to get the case resolved early. And if we can't do that, then we bring on the big guns with a big firm that has an extensive trial team and has the resources to litigate the case. But we stay heavily involved in the settlement aspect. And so we're always, if you're focused on litigation and you're focused on that fight, that kind of takes your eyes away from the settlement. And but if you're focused only on settlement, you've put your client in a terrible position, because now if the case is going to trial, you might, you don't have a case to try.
Hmm.
And so I think this model is great because it allows focus on both, and in from two different aspects, and the client really benefits from that.
So you're raising three kids with Krissa. What do you want Ellie, Everett, and Juliet to learn from watching their parents build something from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, just that tenacity wins the day, that you just have to stay, like if you have a dream, you have to keep on and keep on at it. And there's barriers, there's struggles, there's challenges, and hurdles that you'll have to jump over, but you can do it. And they, since we work from home, we run this business from our house, they know it and they see it all the time. So, yeah.
How do you balance out your time? Because I raised four kids, and I tried to balance my time most of the time, and so it was always challenging. How do you manage to do that? Because now since both of you are involved in the business, how do you balance that so the kids and all that part, the soccer games and then the business, something happens that you didn't expect, you got to go take care of this, or client calls, there's so many things that are going on. How do you balance that?
We've been blessed in the fact we have my parents and her parents live very close by, Chris's parents, and so when we're out of town for conferences and whatnot, they help out, they pitch in. But I think one of the silver linings from the COVID era was that we can work from home and we can do it very productively and efficiently, and we learned that, and that's just been great because it allows me to do dinner and then come right back to my office if I need to and finish something up, right? Or I coach my daughter's basketball team and my son's basketball team. So we have, that's a responsibility in its own, but it allows me that after I'm done with that, if there's something still that needs to be taken care of, I can knock it out. I can wake up early and work and then also get them to school, or yeah, it's been it hasn't been as difficult as I would think, at balancing it. And I think earlier on in my career I was terrible at it. It was like, my job was to be at work all the time, and kind of, and I probably missed out on a lot of stuff that I wish I hadn't. But now I feel like we've got it down.
Okay, so thanks for coming on. I think you're a great guest, and your product is really interesting and innovative. So where can people find you if they say, "Yeah, I want that StreamSettle thing. I want to sign up for that." Where do they find out more information about that, or if they need some legal help, your law firm?
Yeah, so they can go to streamsettle.com and you can create an account. You can also book a demo right there, with us. You can email me at jjones@streamsettle.com. I'm on LinkedIn. And then also for Jones and Cook, you will go to jonescook.com. And again, you can set appointments with us right there, or give us a call. And almost always it's going to be my managing partner, Sean, that picks up the phone. So you'll talk to an attorney right away. That's typically how it works. If not, he'll be calling you back pretty quick.
Okay, thanks for coming on with me. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. So